Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Bo Martonic.
Hey everyone, I'm really excited to release this podcast today with my guest, Dan, the fitness man Staton of Elk Shape. Dan owns a CrossFit gym and is also the owner of Elk Shape and the host of the Elk Shape podcast, which I believe will be extremely valuable to anyone that listens to my podcast. I think Dan has a wealth of knowledge there. And we talk about a lot of things he talks about on his podcast, but geared towards, the Eastern adventure hunter looking to head out west and also dive into a lot more than that. It's from a physical fitness standpoint and why Dan uses CrossFit and why he believes for him CrossFit is the best way to be in shape to tackle on whatever the mountains are going to throw at you, as well as get into a lot about elk hunting early season specifically, and just adventure style hunts from Alaska through the lower 48 and everything in between. So Dan, the thing I really liked about talking to him and why I wanted to have him on there is he talks about hunting a lot on his own podcast, but also is big on goal planning, discipline, family work-life balance, and just really setting goals and crushing them. So this podcast has a little bit for everybody, down to hunting tactics and then also overall life discussions. So I'm excited to have this one come out and you guys listen to it. But first, I wanted to kind of give everyone an update here on what it's looking like coming into, we're coming into the end of August here. And it's August 20th. Elk season's, for some of us, less than a week away. And Colorado openers coming up here this weekend. And the last time that I had talked about kind of my elk hunting plans, they have changed quite a bit. So some things that I discussed with my career and my work have changed. And I was not able to take off as much time as I was hoping. I was hoping to have off, 3 weeks at least this season. And I know everyone's like, "Oh, poor you! You don't get 3 weeks. Neither do we." But honestly, I was kind of bummed. I thought I was going to have only a week to go out elk hunting here. And again, I've done that in the past. There's nothing wrong with it. I'll take any elk hunting over none. But got lucky and was able to plan a little bit longer. So next Friday, August 31st, I'll be heading out west, pointing the truck towards the Colorado border and getting ready to head up into the mountains. And one of the most exciting things is that my dad will now be joining me for the first leg of the trip, which is really exciting. It was just a last minute thing. We were talking at the house last night and I was going to be driving out by myself and, kind of just doing my own thing there for the first 8 days or so of the hunt. And he's like, "Well, I'll go out with you." And I never even thought of it because him and my brother had a plan to hunt pronghorn in Wyoming. And although they had extremely high odds, somehow didn't draw. So last minute, my dad said he wants to go, and I'm really excited about that. So we're going to be the first leg of the trip, so about 8 days of hunting, give or take. We are going to be backpacking as well as a mix of, I'm sure, a little bit of truck camping and going back to the spot that I was in last year and getting right into the high country. This will be my first time hunting this early in September and not, coming in around the 10th or so. So it'll be a different kind of style. I'm interested to see how the elk are going to react and, respond this time of year. So I'm still going to, keep a lot of my plan with, bugling and moving, kind of like what we talked about with Corey, but also utilizing the glass to sit down and kind of see what the elk are doing, because I know specifically in this location, being up around 11,000 feet in the high country, I believe that the elk are going to be up above tree line a lot. So that may be more of a spot and stalk type game there for the first, however many days of the season. And I'm really excited to try something different there and see how that plays along. And then, so my dad's going to fly back out on the 10th and head back home. And I'm going to meet up with another group of guys from Pennsylvania, great group of guys that had asked me to come along. And I can't remember if I had talked about that at all on the podcast before, but I'm meeting up with them. They're bringing out horses, and this will be my first experience hunting with horses. So we're going to use them to help pack our gear back in, go way back into a wilderness area, set up base camp, and hunt out of there for the next 5 days or so. And that right there has me extremely excited. A little bit different terrain, slightly lower elevation, more your traditional elk country mixed with, aspens, dark timber, everything else. Where I normally go is mostly just high country and dark timber. So this will be a different type of environment here, and I'm really excited to do that and get to test out some different gear and everything else. So I'm going to be messing around with a couple different packs and everything on the trip. So I recently started messing around with Sitka Gear's new Mountain Hauler 6200 pack, and have been extremely impressed with it as far as weight hauling goes and everything else. And I think has been a huge improvement from previous Sitka's line of backcountry packs, I guess. Very, very impressed with it. And also, without a doubt, bringing along my trusty Kafaru, that I love that pack and have absolutely no issues with it. But you know how it is, and I like trying new stuff out. So we'll see how that goes. And also messing around with some different tents. I just picked up, if anyone follows along on social media, I just picked up a James Baroud USA truck tent. So it's the Evasion hardshell tent. And I'll be using that driving out, as well as the nights that I'm going to camp at the truck. It's a rooftop tent, goes right on the top of my cap on my truck, and a ladder comes out of it. And really comfortable, awesome truck camping, solution there. So I am really excited to get to use that a little bit, as well as my Seek Outside Cimarron tent that I used last year with a stove. That was a game changer, and that'll be kind of base camp when we pack in with horses. And lastly, I am also trying out a new tent from Nemo, which is their one-person storm tent. Sets up with a trekking pole on one side, and I'm going to use a carbon arrow on the other side. Very minimalist. The tent itself weighs right around 18 ounces. Extremely lightweight. Just from initial looks of it and talking to some people that have used it, it's not going to be a tent that I'm going to want to, set up where there's no trees up on the very top of a ridge in the high country where winds can get pretty ridiculous. But I think it's a really cool, bivvy type tent, and we'll see how that handles and if I get a chance to use that as well. So bunch of different things going on here. I'm going to try to put together something to talk about my Sitka Gear system, what I'm going to be taking with me and why, and how I'm going to use that. So be looking for some things coming out there pretty soon. And yeah, elk season's less than 2 weeks away for me, and I cannot be any more excited to experience this and get in there and hopefully come home with my first bull, or if not, would love to see my hunting partners, even more come back with something, and my dad. That would be a pretty cool experience. So I hope everyone enjoys this podcast with Dan as much as I did getting to talk to him, and hopefully I'll have some updates here for you soon. Dan Staton, how's it going, buddy?
It's good, brother. You caught me midweek where I'm hustling and grinding and running low on sleep, and I got light in the tunnel, man. I just got a couple more weeks, and then I'm hunting. So just trying to get everything done, and I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, the same. I'm sitting in a hotel room, recording this podcast. Same thing, running on pretty low sleep. I set, some deadlines for myself to have these podcasts out. And last night I was running very close to that deadline and finished up the podcast right at midnight when I usually launch it. So it was, it's one of those weeks, just getting after it.
Right on.
Yeah. So what's going on today? What's your day looking like?
We started at 4:15. The alarm went off, and just made coffee and a quick breakfast and out the door. Opened up the gym. I open it once a week, so that way I can see the morning clientele at least once a week. Otherwise, I got a really badass coach who runs the mornings. Her name's Brooke. And so she takes Wednesdays off. So I roll in and open up, and I get off at about 2:33. So it's a pretty long day. And then my wife is not working today. So just got home, just took a shower and said hi to the missus. She was meeting with a contractor on a kitchen remodel we're going to be doing, I guess, this winter. So she was doing that. Kids are asleep, and I'm in my office just focused on doing this with you right now, man.
Awesome. So before we get into your background here a little bit and who you are, I just wanted to say that the reason for me having you on this podcast here is I have kind of found out about Elk Shape and yourself a few years back when I started looking into this whole journey to Western hunting and big game hunting, and it's been very inspiring to say the least, and I'm excited to get you on to cover some, topics surrounded by physical fitness, elk hunting, and just overall, business goals and just setting goals and accomplishing them.
Appreciate it, man. It's awesome to hear.
So with that being said, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, super simple guy. Don't have very many passions besides helping people in the fitness world and chasing elk with a bow. I mean, it doesn't get much more simpler than that. I'm a family guy, pretty young family. I got married, I think, kind of later, like 27. Didn't have our first kid till I was 33, 34. And so now I'm almost 37 years old and just going to be, have two kids, 2 and a 4-year-old, and my wife and I, we're just kind of a younger family, but just trying to be the best dad I can be, try to put my marriage first before anything, and try to be a good Christian. And it's not easy. I swear like a sailor, ask my clients, and I'm a pretty intense guy in general. I can't turn it off. I'm just kind of like figured out through 37 years that I'm just kind of hardwired as I'm a very serious, intense guy. Don't get me wrong. I like to joke and laugh and stuff, but like, I'm just kind of a serious guy when it comes to the things that I'm passionate about. I'm all in on. And like I told you, it's just comes down to probably helping people with their fitness journeys. And for myself, I love elk hunting. It's literally a lot of times what I live for. So yeah, that's simple guy and from the Northwest, and I own a business called CrossFit Spokane Valley, and we're on year 10, and I've been in the strength and conditioning field for 17 years, maybe 18 years, and been bow hunting since 2001, been hunting my whole life. So I've hunted all over in the lower 48. I've hunted in Alaska. Elk is my number one thing. I kind of plan all my hunting season around elk hunting and backfill with other hunts. And I love archery. And so that's kind of me, man.
Yeah. So I guess you kind of stole my next question here about kind of describing what Elk Shape was about. But I think you kind of got into it. But is there anything else you want to add about Elk Shape and what you're trying to accomplish with that?
Elk Shape is really just a brand that I created to put my writings, my videos, my content, if you will, at a central hub. But the goal of Elk Shape truly is to help people crush the elk hunting learning curve, which crushed me. I killed an elk my very first attempt with a rifle in Washington. I hunted for maybe half an hour and killed a bull. Super, super lucky, super blessed, and didn't know anything about elk hunting. And here I am gutting out a 600-pound bull. And so I killed several deer up to that point and had been a rifle hunter when I could. It was tough to hunt when you play sports in junior high school. And I gave up sports and went into the fitness industry in school and got into hunting again, kind of with my dad, and put a bull on the ground. And it was awesome. And so I thought I would learn more about elk hunting, and found out you could hunt them during the rut with a bow in most states. So I just bought over-the-counter tags in Idaho, which is next door to me in Washington, and hunted with my uncle and dad for a couple of years. And I love my uncle to death, but he really wasn't an experienced elk hunter. He wasn't the greatest mentor, but he's a great woodsman and a good backcountry guy. So he got me right into the backcountry right away. And dude, I didn't kill an elk for 4 years. I killed my first bull with a bow in, I think, 2005 in New Mexico. So there was 4 years where I just tagged soup. And that year I drew that tag and me and my dad both drove down to New Mexico and both killed our first bulls ever with bows. But I still could not get an Idaho bull until, I want to say, 2000, maybe 8. I killed my first Idaho bull. So there was like 7 seasons of out-of-state elk tags in my backyard where I just literally either just couldn't get a shot because the brush and I didn't know what I was doing, or I should have killed a 6-point bull. I swear I double lunged him, but we couldn't find him. I mean, just made every mistake possible to not having the right gear, not understanding how to navigate, not understanding topography, and really just zero knowledge of elk behavior. The only knowledge I could gain was either firsthand or watching Primo's hunting DVDs where they're hunting private ranches in Colorado and Montana where elk have no pressure. I just didn't have any like public land mentorship. So that's what Elk Shape's about, is helping folks really figure out how to do it themselves on a budget, blue collar people that want to have success right out the gates and not make some of the mistakes that I made. So that's what Elk Shape's all about. Now, fitness is a huge part of that. So it's a huge part of who I am. So that's why the name Elk Shape. But I like to stay in Elk Shape year round. It's not like getting into Elk Shape for just a couple weeks and then turning back into a turd. But it's just a cool brand that I'm passionate about, and it's really just kind of my passion project and my side hustle, and I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And with my background, I'm a big believer in overall healthy lifestyle from a hunting standpoint, obviously, but just from an overall, well-being standpoint. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you think the importance of fitness when it comes to elk hunting, and how that can help you from not just a physical standpoint, but also a mental standpoint.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of hunting comes down to what's between the ears, not only just your intelligence. We as humans can reason. We rely more on just instinct. We can think it through consciously. But mental toughness, to me, is just about everything. And I found that I couldn't get mentally tough until I did things that challenged me, not only physically, but challenged my discipline and challenged my self-talk, and helped me overcome rationalization, which is just that little voice inside of your head that'll tell you that's good enough, or you can do this later, or where you're at fitness wise is plenty. And so if you can really start to learn to mute that voice and take the hard path, the high road, and go against the grain, because I'll be honest, there's going to be a lot of times when I'm elk hunting where, to get the wind right is really going to take me gaining an extra 1,000 feet and going an extra mile to get the wind right. And I don't want to do that. I want to just go after this bull. He's right there. But discipline will win if I can just shut that rationalization up and say, nope, I got to do it the hard way. It's the right way. And to me, you need reps at that. And I get my reps inside the 4 walls of CrossFit. Just about every day I'm doing something I don't really feel like doing, but I'm going to do it anyways. And those multiple reps, they help improve that mental toughness muscle that needs repetition and doesn't do well with atrophy. You don't get reps, it will get weaker, it will get smaller, and you will succumb to weakness and rationalization. So hopefully that makes sense, that I think mental toughness is everything, and I don't think anyone's really born mentally tough. You have to keep reps at mental toughness reps, or keep reps at doing the hard thing and staying disciplined, eating healthy when, that hot pizza and cold beer's right over there and you're over there eating your chicken salad. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I've heard people say in the past about mental toughness being something you're just born into and can't really be made. And I completely agree with your standpoint on that. And I think just my journey of elk hunting in the last couple years has really has made me, I guess, mentally tougher in every part of my life. When big things happen, things that may be unplanned events, anything that happens, you're able to persevere through that and, stay disciplined, keep your goals in mind and get past it, because it's, to be honest, I mean, when you're on some of these hunts and everything, it's not always fun. So when you can apply those different things into every part of your life with the discipline of, like you said, waking up at 4:15 every morning and work, like, so I do that to find time to work out. I get up every morning, 4:30 in the morning, and do a workout, whether that's 30 minutes, whether that's an hour, depends on what I can get in, but I'll make sure that I get that done, even when you just want to hit that alarm clock and, lay in bed. Those things help so much, and I've seen the improvements over the last couple of years within, again, elk hunting and everything else in life when you have that discipline to do that. So with CrossFit, so you're saying the high reps, the high intensity, everything there is what is helping you a lot with that I guess becoming more mentally tough?
Yeah, I don't know if I was getting mentally tough back in my early days when I did 5 sets of 5 bench and 5 sets of 5 deadlifts and maybe 5 sets of 5 lat pull downs, with lots of rest in between sets. I mean, was it hard and challenging? Sure. And did I get stronger? Yes. But there's something to be said about the intensity component of CrossFit, which we can get into, but the intensity piece where you're doing things under duress, because let's be honest, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So when you are forced to do things under duress, you really get tested, because you'll want to slow down the pace. Or you'll want to look for that place to breathe, or I need chalk. I gotta get some chalk right now. Or, man, I might just want to shave one round and not do all 5. A lot of that justification, rationalization stuff will come into the workouts every damn day, every day. And it's challenging. And you don't have to do CrossFit to be ready for hunting. But the reason why I choose to do CrossFit is I'm looking back at my hunting portfolio, and you're talking about a guy who I don't spend a lot of time with a backpack on. I try to backpack once a week. It doesn't always happen. I don't run, I don't do trail running. And I don't do a lot of this rucking, and I don't track my heart rate. I just do CrossFit, general physical preparedness, super broad fitness, covering a little bit of everything. Not being an expert at one thing, but being good or respectable at a lot of things. And really working on my individual weaknesses more than working on my strengths has made me extremely well-rounded. And obviously the mental toughness, which we talked about. And I believe doing the training that I do, I don't have to spend hours upon hours in the gym or on the mountain or on the trail or on the road. It's a time economy thing where I can get a lot of bang for my buck. And especially running your own business and doing a side hustle, being a dad, I'm always doing something. And so for me, this is literally the best way for me to get in mountain shape without being in the mountains.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I've never done CrossFit myself. I've never grown up around a CrossFit gym or anything, but I try to take a lot of principles of it with the high intensity and low rest between things. And that has been the biggest help for me. When I first went to Colorado, I mean, I kind of had started at that point, changing things up a little bit, but I was focusing, 100%, it seemed like, on, or not 100%, but a lot on just endurance, just running and then weightlifting, because that's all I did, when I was in college and everything. I did, the 5 sets of 5, each muscle group and everything else. But since I switched to be honest, I don't have a gym membership myself right now. I have kettlebells. I bought sandbags, some different things there, and I just do a lot of reps and a lot of movements in a short amount of time. And when I went out last year to elk hunt, it made such a difference. And I mean, you can obviously kill an elk without being in optimal shape, but I'm sure you can speak of this way better than I can, but you're never going to wish that you were in worse shape. You know what I mean? I mean, every year when I'm hunting in the mountains, or even when I'm hunting out east where I'm from, it's in the Appalachian Mountain region for whitetails. I'm packing a tree stand back in, I'm hanging hunt. So I hang my stand, I pull it back down when I'm done, because I'm hunting public pieces of land, and I'm always moving. You never wish that, I wish I wouldn't have got up at 4:30 every morning and do those workouts. No, you find reasons to want to do more, or find what your weaknesses are. And that's been the biggest, realization for me, and how some of that, high intensity movements and, work under stress kind of has helped out coming from a elk newbie standpoint.
When you don't have a lot of elk hunting knowledge, you don't have a lot of experience, maybe you've never even heard a bull bugle in the wild, but you got yourself an out west elk tag. You really don't have very many things that are going for you, because experience is everything. But what you can do is you can focus on the things that you can control. For instance, you can make damn sure that you know how to tune your bow. Your bow is tuned. Fill points and broadheads are hitting right where they need to be. You can make damn sure that you have your bow doped. You can make sure that you have all the greatest gear in the world, and you've used all the gear, and you have a system in place. You can control that. You can control how much time you spent on Google Earth, YouTube and hunting forums, and calling biologists and fishing game. You can always make that extra phone call or spend that extra hour. I mean, that's the stuff that you can control, but you cannot control the wind in the mountains. It's going to do what it's going to do, and you're going to learn the hard way. And you can't control a bull elk. He's going to do what he's going to do on that particular moment. Either he's hot, or he's selfish and he wants to keep all his cows to himself. He's call shy. He's whatever. He's pressured, or he's just old and mature and been around. All that stuff you can't control. But the one thing that I feel like has been my biggest ally when I sucked at elk hunting was my fitness level. I was driven, extremely far beyond driven, and ready to do whatever it took to be successful. If it meant sleeping on the mountain or getting up 2 hours before dark and hiking in. And there was never a day where I slept in because it was raining. I would go no matter what, and I would go after any and every bugle I heard, regardless of the terrain features that were in my way. And if you can grind day in and day out, you're going to make yourself an opportunity. So fitness will always be an ally to you if you suck at hunting right now. If you're just not that experienced, and that's not your fault. You'll get your experience. You'll get your reps. But in the meantime, you better try to focus on what you can control, like the things I just mentioned, to put yourself in the best position possible to get that elk on the ground.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, you kind of explained, my experience in the last few years of elk hunting. To give you a quick background, I have not killed an elk yet. I've been hunting for 2 seasons of elk hunting, but I do feel like my physical fitness has helped me get into those positions. I've had opportunities. I've had more opportunities than I I should have, but I screwed them all up from a setup standpoint, or just a lot of, like you said, the elk hunting knowledge that comes with experience. And from each one of those mistakes I made, I learned from it. And then, from talking to people, like you and some others that are a lot more experienced, I learned what I did wrong in those situations. But to even get into those opportunities, for example, the place I was hunting in Colorado, I was in the high country around 11,000 to 12,000 feet. And there was a lot of pressure from people coming in from the trail systems. And the place I ended up finding the elk were in this steep canyon. And it seemed like that was, when I got out there, I thought it was almost impossible to get down into. But once you figured out how to get in there and move throughout it, opportunities were there. And I definitely, attribute a lot of that, just those opportunities and that experience, to being able to hike there and be able to do that under pressure. I had tracked everything on my Garmin the first year out there, and in 7 days, I think it was 77 miles, somewhere around there, that I put on the boots. And it's easy to do that, a day or two, but to be able to keep up a hard pace throughout that and that terrain and keep your mind right is not easy. And I've talked about it on this podcast before, but I thought I was going to have, a mental breakdown on day 4 of the first trip. It was just so, I was just beat down, and everything was, everything with my body and my mind just felt like I was just wore out. And it was kind of a wake-up call to be able to, work on those things, work on those weaknesses, and practice, year round with putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, so that once it comes to it, and like you said, it's raining on day 6 or 7 in the morning, you don't sleep that extra hour or two, that you still go out and you realize that you've been working towards this all year. You're going to leave, everything you have on the mountain at that point.
Yeah, you better. Elk hunting is a fourth quarter game, especially the less experience you have. I think most of your success, if you even get to experience it, will be in the fourth quarter, when you finally kind of start to figure out the Elks program. And you ain't going to figure that out if you're tired, or you're homesick, or you're just kind of a mental little person and you just don't have the grit to grind and put yourself, and think of it this way, man. Like, let's say you just don't know that much about elk hunting, and you get yourself into 10 different scenarios where a bull is under 30 yards and you screw up your setup every time. You're either behind a tree, you picked the wrong lane, you made the wrong call, or you moved, you drew too early, you didn't draw early enough. Well, you might need 20 of those encounters until you kind of get things figured out. And then you might bump your success up to where you're killing 5 out of 10 experiences similar. And then maybe you get even more knowledge and you get even more intelligent, and now you're killing 8 out of 10 of those close setups. And that just comes from reps. But if you don't have the physical fitness and the prowess and the mental fortitude, you're not going to get those 10 encounters to blow first. So you're just going to extend your learning curve. And it's going to take everything to get close to a bull with a bow, unless you're just maybe just lucky. And I'd rather be lucky than good. But do you know what I'm saying? It's just going to take a lot of reps for you to kind of start figuring out what to do and when to do it. And you're never going to be perfect, but man, you're going to start figuring out real quick what you're going to start knowing what the elk's going to do before they do it. And that's when the game changes.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping anyways. Like I said, I can't speak from experience with actually killing one yet. But if I can just make, one of those situations from, again, experience happen the right way and learn from it, then I'll be extremely happy. So I'm excited for that to come up this year. I'm just about a month away from today. I'll be heading back into the Colorado backcountry, so I'm excited.
Are you going solo?
No, I'm not. I'm going with a couple guys this time. I was actually planning on going solo because who I was supposed to go with at the beginning, I go out with my brother, and he just got married and is going to Alaska for his honeymoon during September. So I'm not real happy with him for doing that, but I can't change that. So I found another group of guys, great group of guys with similar goals and same thing that I'm excited to go out with. So
that's awesome.
It'll be a good time. So when's your elk season starting?
It never ends, brother. I'm thinking about elk 365, and I don't say that, like, I do kind of say that jokingly, but not really. So my home place to elk hunt is in North Idaho. 10 years ago, my dad and I bought a cabin together, 50-50, to just elk hunt out of, where we grew up elk hunting. And it's really more like a house, quite honestly. It's a very nice cabin. And when you're single and 26 years old and you've been working full time for almost 10 years, you can afford that. You don't have kids or a wife. So thank God I got that before I got married. So some people think like I'm super rich because I have, a cabin, a really nice cabin in Idaho, but I don't. I'm not. I'm definitely blessed, but just through hard work and discipline. And the goal, by the way, we don't talk about finances, is to have that thing paid off in 3 more years, and then have that kind of be like a legacy piece, hopefully, to keep in the family. But the reason why I bring that up is that cabin is somewhere I go to during rifle season, and I'm not elk hunting. I'm keeping tabs on how many trucks are driving by with how many bulls in the back of it. I'm constantly running trail cameras year round in there, moving them and adding more to my collection. And I'm like a damn biologist, man. I'm tracking those herds. I'm always wolf hunting in there, trying to keep those numbers low. I'm shed hunting in there. I'm bear hunting in there, trying to keep the bear population in check. I'm always in there getting firewood, picking huckleberries, dirt bike riding, hiking. I'm in those mountains. So as far as my back pocket place to go, and that my go-to over the counter is right there in North Idaho. And I know it like the back of my hand, and I'm always adding knowledge to that. So I scout year round there. Now, what my elk season this year is a little different. I've drawn some pretty amazing tags I've been putting in for over a decade in almost all the good states out west. So I cashed in on Nevada. So I'm going to hunt Nevada elk finally.
Nice.
I think
that'll be awesome.
Maybe 13 points I think I put in. So I'm going there, and they open August 25th. So I'm going to get there, I think, 2 days prior to do some scouting. And I've never stepped foot in the unit. It's been all e-scouting and talking to a close friend who's hunted there before. And I got my maps, and I got my Onyx, all my maps saved, and I'm ready to go. And then when that hunt ends, or if I kill even early, I'm ready to go to my next tag, which is in Wyoming. I haven't hunted Wyoming in 10 years. I'm going to a unit I've never been into, and a mountain range I've never stepped foot into. But I'm going with a friend who hunted there last year, and so I'm going to lean on his knowledge, and that's going to be a great hunt as well. And if I get time, I will come back to my cabin and finish the season there if that works out. So it could be a three bull year. I've done those a couple times. It may be a no bull year, and that's the beauty of elk hunting, is no matter how many elk you've killed, the slate is wiped clean every year. And there is not a season that hasn't gone by where I've had to stop and go, have I ever really killed? How the hell did I ever kill an elk? This is so hard. And I'm sure that'll happen to me this year where I don't know how many elk I've killed, but over, not 30, but over 20 in the last 11 years. And I will stop at some point in 2018 and probably laugh at myself and say, dude, are you sure you've ever even killed an elk? Because you always are making mistakes, and you just got to be able to roll with the punches and bounce back, keep your mental game sharp, and put your best foot forward day in and day out. I tell people on my podcast, you cannot control the outcome as much as you want to. You can only control your effort and your attitude, and that's it. So we talked about the things to control before the season, and that's the equipment, the scouting, your weapon. But when you get in the field, man, you can't control how many other hunters are there, or what kind of winter, or what the wolf situation's like, or the wind, or any of that kind of stuff. You just can control your effort and attitude. And so the slate's wiped clean, brother. So I'm a brand new elk hunter. I haven't done it in 11 months. I'm just it's a fun process to start over. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. So before I ask you about kind of what your strategy is going into Nevada, going in the end of August, you had said when you bought that cabin when you were 26, single, not married, everything there, kind of sounds like, I'm 26 right now in a similar situation. So are you telling me that I need to buy a hunting cabin and get it taken care of?
Yeah, I tell you this much: if you're 26 and you're not married, you don't have kids, you need to go do all those hunts that you want to do right now. Pay cash for them, save up, and go. Just work your ass off and go. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I've hunted Alaska, I think 4 times before I was married, which was awesome. Canada, all over the out west, and I still hunt a lot. And God bless my wife, because I told her before we got married, this is what I do. This is what I do, and I'm not changing that part of me. That's just kind of who I am, and so this is part of the package deal. So before you get tangled up with a woman, go do some of those dream hunts you can. Buy tags, not gear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that saying. And just go cut your teeth. Alaska, there's so many things you can do in Alaska. I think everyone needs to go see Alaska. It's awesome. And so I don't know if you need a hunting cabin per se, but when I do hunt in Idaho, I'm pretty soft. I sleep in a bed every night. I shower every morning. I drink coffee out of a coffee pot. I watch the news. And don't get it twisted, though. Part of the trade-off on doing that is I have at least an hour truck drive, potentially an hour dirt bike ride, and then potentially still hiking in from there every day. And you got to flip that on the back end. I usually don't camp out in the woods, so I got to go hike back to my dirt bike, ride back to my truck, load my dirt bike, drive back to the cabin, gas my dirt bike, check everything, make sure mechanically we're sound. Usually I'll shoot my bow in the headlights of my truck because it is pretty steep, rugged riding, and your bow's attached to your backpack, and things can change and move. And I learned that a long time ago to shoot my bow every time I leave the cabin and come home, shoot that night. And then you got to make dinner and try not to pass out before dinner's done. Make yourself eat. A lot of times you're not hungry. You just want to sleep. It's a grind, but I tell you, a warm bed and stuff is nice. And we do spike camps, and we do backpack hunt out of there as well. But, a lot of times we've gotten some really good hunting just getting that out of the cabin. And I'm not a guy who sleeps during the day elk hunting. I don't take naps during elk hunting season. And I'm a huge, you talk to my clients at my gym, I'm on their ass about their sleep. Then it's their nutrition, and then it's their training, because sleep is everything. And but I am a complete hypocrite in September. I don't know what it is, but I run on about 4 or 5 hours of sleep a day, and I just think I know from experience that those days are finite, and I can't squander. I gotta grind every day to get it done. So that's what it takes. Yeah,
and so you were talking about Alaska. I just went to Alaska for the first time about a month and a half ago during the summer solstice there. I went up there for the Heather's Choice Company retreat and got to see Alaska from a raft and camping and doing a bunch of things. And I'd already been planning on it, but now it's definite that 2019 I'm going up there to hunt something. And I've realized it's not as difficult as I originally thought it was going to be. As far as a planning standpoint, it takes more planning, but it's not, out of reach. So it's an unbelievable place.
That's awesome to hear you say that. My first time I hunted Alaska, I don't know how I did it, but I was 21. I paid for a charter flight to King Salmon, and then I paid a bush pilot to drop me off solo in the middle of a mountain range, and I killed a caribou with my bow by myself in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. One of the most life-changing events. You talk about finding out what you're made of and who you really are and connecting with the creator. This was the ticket for me. It was life-changing. Was I scared? Sometimes I was. And was I doubtful of myself? Sometimes I was. But from a learning experience, that's one of the best things I've ever decided to do. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Was just a solo 21-year-old punk do-it-yourself caribou hunt in Alaska, and it was awesome. You know what I mean? So go do it, man.
Yeah.
Even if no one will go with you, get an inReach. I didn't have a DeLorme inReach. I didn't have one of those. I just did it, man. And my family thought I was crazy, but I did it and would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I actually just picked up an inReach Mini because I was planning on going solo for some of the trip. Some things with work and everything didn't work out that I'm able to go as long as I was planning. But anyways, you had said something too about, buying tags and not gear. So what I do to be able to get gear is work at an archery shop part-time. And that's how I get my gear. And,
nice.
Just figure it out. I figured out what I wanted from an experience standpoint. And then I can use, my money that I'm saving from my regular job and everything for tags and travel and everything else and putting that aside. And for when I want gear, I work extra hours at the shop or do whatever I need to do that. So there's always a way. You can always find it. Just depends how hard you want to work for it, I guess.
Dude, I interviewed a guy a couple podcasts ago named Brian Sales. He lives in North Carolina. He's a pilot, and he already had an envelope that he was putting $100 bills in every month for 2020. Talk about discipline. Talk about delayed gratification. Talk about getting the big picture and, just doing the hard thing now. I was so impressed when he said that. And it just proves if you really want something bad enough, it's yours for the taking. You just have to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a planning thing. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And I listened to that podcast with Brian, and I thought that was awesome to hear that. And it's something a friend of mine, Matt Comment, he has brought up to me before, and he's like, hey, I've done sheep hunts and I've done this, and I'm not a rich guy. He's like, it just takes discipline, and when you want that $50,000 truck, instead of doing that, drive your old truck for 5 years, and the money that you would put in front, that you would be putting for that, there's your sheep hunt, and just, there's so many different ways of looking at it that you can have these experiences you want with some planning and discipline, like you said. And I'm, learning the more and more that as I get older, just delayed gratification and realizing that I can't always have everything I want right now, but you have to plan for it. And that's, believe me, that's taken a lot of, mistakes and experiences to get there, but, continue to try for it. And that's what, I hope with this podcast too, to be able to show people that even if you don't have, a lot of money or this or that, if you want something bad enough and you want these experiences, you can make them happen.
100%.
Yeah. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit here about your Nevada hunt. So you're going in the end of August. What is your kind of strategy going into that?
Well, keep in mind, I've never been there, so I am going to be adaptable to what the circumstance is. Now, I have been to Nevada multiple times hunting mule deer, and I've been in places where there are big bulls. So I've seen lots of elk back in the high country, and where I'm going is more high desert than it is like steep mountain ranges. But it's going to be a glassing game. So figuring out on Google Earth where to glass to see certain drainages, certain features, knowing where water is and figuring out how scarce water is going to be important when we get there. Now in Nevada, you cannot run trail cameras. That's a new law. And I mean like for nothing. So won't probably be sitting water in a ground blind unless we just know for certain we probably got visual confirmation that a bull is hitting water, but most of the elk will probably hit water in the afternoons, and the rut probably won't be happening when we first get there, but bulls will be August 25th. I would assume most bulls will shed velvet by then, and they're feeling a little froggier, and there'll be some bugling. Now, I have been in Nevada in the high country and been woken up out of my bivy sack to a bull bugling all night. And then when I woke up that morning, I got eyes on him, and he was a 7-point inline, 7x7. He had like 60 cows, a couple of rags, and it seemed like it was a month later. It seemed like it was September 25th. I mean, he was just bugling and chasing cows and checking every cow. And it was like August 22nd or 3rd. So you just never know what's going to be happening, but we're going to just kind of adjust. But we've got about 5 or 6 places to glass from. And then additionally, we have 4 or 5 other places to check out. Don't know the road systems by heart, but just know them off Google Earth. I've dropped several points of interest and got everything, all my maps created, and kind of have a written out game plan as to where to go first, where to go second, where to camp, where to get gas, what things to bring down. And then one thing that I talk about is just trying to bulletproof everything. Like I said in prior, it was controlling what I could control. So I know I'm bringing a 4-wheeler, which means I'm bringing a trailer, a utility trailer, which means I got to grease the axles on that and make sure I got 2 spare tires and have all the tools to do that. And I just went from top to bottom through my entire 4-wheeler, changing out every fluid and checking everything. And so just being prepared, because when you travel that far, you're going to have to be able to do and fix things right then and there. You might get a flat tire in your truck, whatever. So just trying to be prepared and not have to be MacGyver, like have the tools I need right then and there. And then as far as the hunt plan goes, I think it's going to be probably not a call-in situation, but more of like an intercept or even hunt them like mule deer. So.
Yeah. Okay, that was going to be my question. Do you do a lot of calling, or does that all depend on the situation?
God, I'll call a ton when it's necessary, and that's usually when I just need to find elk.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it'll be at night or before it's light. I need to know where the bulls are at to get to, but I would prefer to glass and let the glass do the walking and learn the elk's pattern, especially late August. There's still going to be some patterns, and then take advantage of those patterns and figure out where to intercept or even where to make a stalk like a mule deer. I don't know with the juniper pinion situation. If a big bull goes into the patch of junipers, you're not going to know exactly where he bedded down. Your odds go down. So trying to make good plays on good high percentage and being patient. I'm not super picky. I'm not like I need a 365 or better bull. But with this tag, obviously I want to get something special considering the time I put in, but I'm more or less looking forward to seeing what they have in inventory. And I think I'll know right away if I want a specific bull and try to find his weakness and exploit it. Now, Wyoming will be different because I've talked to my buddy who was there. There'll be some calling, but the elk will be in bigger herds, and there's a lot of bulls to cows. And so they're going to be doing all the talking on their own. So it's going to be a lot of just slip in type stuff on those elk, let them do them. In Idaho, where it's brushy and whatnot, there's going to be days where you're going to need to call and challenge bulls with the bugle tube predominantly and get in their face and get them cornered or pressure them and get them to come in. And that's really a lot of fun. It's really difficult to do solo, which is primarily how I hunt, but it can be done. There's some techniques to that. But so to answer your question, I'm thinking Nevada's going to be more like a mule deer hunt, essentially. I think Wyoming would be more of like my style of run silent, run deep, let the elk do the thing and move in on them. There is some places to glass, but it's high country, and so it'll be sneaking in on bulls, big herds, and trying to get past several sets of eyes of cows and calves and spikes and rag bulls. And then if I do get a chance to hunt my home territory in North Idaho, it'll probably be a lot more bugling and challenging and find the right bull that wants to play ball.
Okay. Yeah, that's like you said, and it all depends on the terrain and everything too. Obviously, you're not gonna, if it's a lot more open terrain, bugling will pinpoint you a lot more than, if you're in brushy terrain of North Idaho.
Yeah, so like North Idaho, I don't even pack binoculars. Like that's useless.
Yeah.
Like that's so that should just explain that. Like I've had many bulls under 20 yards and I can't get a shot because of alders or huckleberry brush or thick timber, whatever. So yeah, and those elk, I would say I don't know if this is necessarily true, but generally speaking, the brushier, dense country, the elk are more vocal because they have to be, like Roosevelt's, which I've never hunted, but I'm acting like I know. But they'll come in closer, but you may not get a shot
Yeah.
due to that. Whereas in a little more open country, you just got to be a little more delicate, giving away your position. I'd much rather just be sneaky, and I love it when bulls are bugling at each other on their own. I just love that. I feel like the odds, when they don't know you're there, you can really manipulate the situation and turn the table. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And where I was hunting in Colorado, it was in a wilderness area and basically dark timber. There was no aspens even where I was at, as high up as it was, and it was all blowdowns and everything. And a couple of the opportunities I had were 15, 20 yards, and I couldn't get a shot from just the amount of, with the trees blown down and branches everywhere and this and that. And when I got into those deep canyons, they were definitely more vocal. And even for me to be able to find them, it seemed like that I had to be more vocal with them. But once they were up, above tree line or anything, then it was kind of a different story.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's awesome. It sounds like you have a pretty good lineup, going into this elk season. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, elk are visual to some degree. I mean, a lot of times they want to confirm for sure, but a lot of times they want to confirm with their nose almost 9 times out of 10. So you just got to be able to get yourself in a position where they can't confirm your scent. And when they attempt to do that, you have set up off that decision that they will make. And not all the time. I mean, you might have a bull come in straight downwind. He's just rut crazy and doesn't give a crap. And those are the great days, but they are few and far between. The bull's going to rely on their nose, or sometimes they're visual. And so that's when you're working with the team, like you're going to be, you guys really need to be picky on your setups, and someone's got to be the quarterback and really execute the game plan to get you in the position to make that shot and know what that bull is going to do. And go from there. I think the more calling that I do, the smaller bulls, you're going to have to, if you're picky on bull, which most guys aren't. Most guys just want to kill a bull. The best way to kill any raghorn bull is by calling them in with the cow call or a small spike bugle, and they're dumb. They're just not as smart as an older bull. They haven't played the game as long. And I think with that being said, hunting with a setup with a team of like a one call or 2 shooters or vice versa, something like that, is definitely ups your odds. When you're going solo, you have to be the caller and the shooter. You just have to kind of think things through a little bit more and pay attention to moving. You can't make a call and stay where you're at. You have to make that call and then put yourself out in front of that last sound you made. And you better get there quick, and you better get there stealth-like. And a lot of times that will help your situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And as you're saying that, I can think of situations in my head where, that has happened, and either, I messed it up when I was by myself. There was a 5-point bull in a wallow, and I was trying to call him out of there towards me, and as soon as I made the cow call, I saw him starting to come. So, I booked it, that way, but my setup was not, 1, stealthy, and 2, I ended up setting up kind of where he came in. There was a tree in between us, and although he was at 15 yards, he was stopped looking at my previous location where there was nothing there anymore, no cow, and, then he just got spooked at that point.
Yeah, so he was going for visual confirmation, and you probably didn't know the trail system or whatever. You didn't know, that's part of having home field advantage in Idaho. Is like a lot of times I've been there, I might know where the bull might want to go to see, because a lot of times they just want that visual first, even in that country, and or at least if they can't get the wind, they'll want to see. And so that's where you gotta. But you did good. I mean, you moved up. And you don't have to be sneaky on elk like a whitetail. You really can't break. You can't be afraid to break brush, hit a stick. That's not a big deal. It's being loud is not a problem. In fact, I'd rather see people err on the side of being too aggressive than err on the side of being not aggressive, because I feel like people are just too passive when they're first learning how to elk hunt. If you really want to make it happen, you just got to be extremely aggressive, but smart. But I think you have to make the moves.
Yeah, aggressive but not reckless.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in North Idaho, do you hunt whitetails at all?
Not well. I have hunted and killed a couple of nice bucks in Idaho, like mountain bucks. But Washington is where I spend most of my time hunting mountain whitetails, just because of the price is like $40 versus $300. And you can bait in Washington, so a lot of times I'll hike in alfalfa, corn, sweet feed, molasses mix into these setups, which is super nice. It's not a guarantee, by the way. People are thinking, oh, that's cheating. That's not. It's a legal way to hunt, and it'll get the does coming in, but the bucks are still super cautious. But in Idaho, you can't bait, so you have to kind of run a scrape system and use scents and funnels, and it's definitely more challenging. If I tag out early in Washington for whitetail, then I will definitely. I always go to Idaho. There's a few places I like to go there, but I do like whitetail hunting quite a bit. It's probably, it's not my absolute favorite thing, but you're talking to a guy who's not afraid to sit sun up, sun down a week straight in November. To me, I get the process. I love it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I love whitetail hunting, especially mountain bucks for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, that's so where I'm from is right in the Appalachian region, north central Pennsylvania, is where I grew up and where I hunt. And there's over 2 million acres of public land in northern Pennsylvania. Not a lot of people know about, and it's a majority of forest. So there's no food plots. There's nothing when you think of whitetail hunting. It's relatively steep terrain, just not at elevation or anything like out west. And that's why I just have that's always been how I grew up. I didn't hunt farm country, whitetails, anything like that. I am going to plan a western whitetail hunt somewhere, in those areas, whether that's Idaho. I'm hearing more and more about Washington, northern Montana. Talked to a few guys that live and hunt there, and that kind of style whitetail hunting just gets me fired up because it reminds me of what I'm doing at home, and I can kind of take those tactics out there and see how they work. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, to me, there's nothing like an old mountain buck, that's for sure.
They're so cagey, so smart, and just survivalist, man. Whitetail are very, I don't know, they're amazing. It seems like they can out-survive any animal. Harsh winters, they'll move down, they'll survive. They'll live in someone's backyard if that's what it means to make it through the winter. Whereas stubborn old mule deer buck might stay on the mountain way too long and not make it out,
Mm-hmm.
So, and, you got a lot of wolves over there in western Montana and North Idaho, high density of wolves. So you got that to, play with as well.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, Dan, let's talk a little bit about how, with you being, busy with owning your own business, your side hustle and hunting and everything, how do you balance that family, work life and hunting as well?
Man, balance is not my forte. Like I told you guys in the beginning, I'm pretty much all or none. So it's difficult to say the least. And I'm still navigating these waters. But this is going to be a hard test for me this year to be gone from my family for about 4 or 5 weeks. Just not seeing the kids every day is going to be really hard. But what I try to do is be super intentional about carving out the entire summer for them. We've gone on 4 different camping trips. We're going again this weekend. I did 0 scouting this summer when it came to Wyoming and Nevada. I decided 26-year-old Dan, not married, kids, I would have had 2 or 3 scouting trips in Nevada. You know what I mean? It's not that far of a drive. It's like an 8-9 hour drive. Do it. But 37-year-old Dan is like, whoa, I need to really fill up their cups, quality time, and just be present. Put the phone down and don't scroll, put it away and be present. And I think that's really important. So I'm trying to do a better job there. I'm making an attempt to do that and to make some memories. And with my wife, especially, I usually, like I said, if I can't draw a good elk tag, I'll hunt right out of the cabin. So I'm talking, I can call her every night and check in. If I need to come home, it's a 2-hour drive, and I can skip a day of hunting if I need to be there for anything that she may need. That's not going to be like that this year. So what I've done is I went ahead and got 2 different nannies coming in on 2 different days of the week just to give her a break from the kids. So I made all those arrangements. I've taken care of, basically I've spoiled her this summer more than ever. And I don't have to, but I think I want to. So I got her a paddleboard. She loves the water. I've got her some cool workout gear. She's a workout freak just like me. I've set up and built and purchased a whole workout gym in our garage that's so legit. I mean, we've got a rower, a Rogue Echo bike, bumper plates, comp plates, pull-up bar, kettlebell, box jumps, all right there. So if she's one of her favorite things to do is to work out. So if she's got the kids and they're in nap time, then she doesn't have to drive to the gym. She can work out there. So I spent all summer kind of like saving up and getting these things for her. They're a tax write-off for me as well. And then there's, she's got a massage that she doesn't know about scheduled. She's got a full color and cut. And for guys, that means that she's going to get her hair cut and they're going to dye it. And girls love that. They love their hair. So she's got a full 2-hour appointment that she doesn't know about. And then I got her a $200 gift card to Lululemon. And she's going to get that present on Friday, which is her birthday, in 2 days from now. And I'm just going to, show her the calendar and show her, hey, here's your days where you don't have the kids while I'm gone. And, hey, here's some things I've gotten for you. And she's super thankful, man. And if I hadn't done all that stuff, I just don't know if it'd be as good a situation when I come home from being gone. And it's still going to be hard.
Yeah.
But those are the things, and it's just about being intentional.
You know what, Dan? I mean, I think out of this whole podcast and all the good information you've given out, I think this is probably where I should be taking the notes the most. I know for me, I struggle with that, and it's not intentional with doing that, but when it comes down to whether that's me, working on my own business or hunting or whatever it may be, sometimes you just get in that mindset and you're just focused on it. And I think that's one of my biggest weaknesses and something that I'm really trying to focus on going forward is, making time for loved ones and making sure, like you said, you're intentional with it and not being distracted by everything else. Like you said, you're all or none. So when you're working, but when it's family time, it's family time.
Definitely. And that's a good way to go, man. And I'm still learning. So I don't have this thing figured out. Don't think I'll let you know after the season how it goes. I mean, there'll still be struggle. If it was easy, everybody would stay married. It's difficult. It's hard. And that's okay with me. And so, my wife's a saint, and you know what? She loves elk meat. So at the end of the day, I need to get some bulls killed because the freezer's looking pretty low, and we really do love elk meat, man. So. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you definitely got to kill a bull or two out of those 3 tags to make it a little bit easier when you go home.
100%.
All right. Perfect.
There's not a doubt in my mind. There's not a doubt in my mind unless something catastrophic happens. I'm going to get an opportunity. I'm going to try to make the most of it. So you got to believe in yourself because if you don't, no one else will. So yeah, I'm super pumped to get something down on the ground, and I'll take what the good Lord gives me, and I hope to create some great memories and really just reconnect with myself and be void of distraction of, payroll taxes, members, emails, all that stuff that just drowns us day and day. I want to get it all silenced and go be wild and be a man in the wild. And I'm looking forward to it, man.
Awesome. So what, you're, again, obviously a very busy man and have set yourself up for success that with owning a business and and your side hustles and your family and your fitness and health and everything. And obviously those things don't come overnight, and it's always a learning process. But so how do you look at setting goals and accomplishing them? What's kind of do you have a method for doing that?
So for goals, yes. Goals are, I would say, imperative to mapping out how you're going to operate your day-to-day life. And so I set big goals in writing at the beginning of every year, kind of a reset, pretty cliche, but January 1, everything goes down in writing. And they're kind of like written out as their big goals, the things that we want to accomplish as a family and professionally, spiritually, hunting wise. And then they're broken down into smaller goals or smaller steps that lead to the big goal. And really it breaks down to just a laundry list of things that you need to do day in and day out that are going to move the needle every day a little bit towards the big goal. And so it just comes down to discipline. And that's one thing that I'm thankful for, is I am a very disciplined person. Kind of always have been. So maybe that's just something that you are born with. I'm not sure. But I have bow hunted long enough to know that discipline wins in the long run. And so there's not a week that doesn't go by where I don't shoot several times a week. It's just something I have to do. I've told people I'm not a great archer, but I feel great about archery when I get lots of reps. And I feel like that's something I can control. When it comes to fitness, I set goals along the way, and I check in with my goals, and I test and retest, and fiscally with my business, I have goals and I pursue them and I check in, and I know what we need to do today, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter. Like, you just have to have the small steps that lead to the big goal. And if you're not writing anything down and you're not taking the time to reflect and really make a plan, it's so cliche. You fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I didn't make that up, but it's Proverbs. It's something. It should be. If it isn't, it's just it's the world we live in. And so I'm a guy that's kind of paranoid about failure. Failure is a very positive thing. It's driven me more and more to be successful. And failing is not a bad thing. It's just an opportunity to make some adjustments and try again until you figure out what's going to work for you.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And I'm sure, you were saying, you were almost, born with the discipline side of things and everything, but that's something that I'm thinking can be learned as well, as far as mental toughness is. And I don't know if you have anything to comment on that. I'm not really sure, but I know that's something that's it seems like it's been inside me, at least. It's not always easy, but I'm always, when I have a goal set in mind, that's what I think about. And I, like you said, break it down into small steps of how to complete those goals. And the hardest thing that I come across is really looking back at them and taking the time to reflect and see where you're at. So I have a spreadsheet written out and reminder in my calendar to go back, every quarter and review that. And then I have it in red, yellow, or green, whether that, I'm in progress, whether I've completed the goal or whether I'm off track, kind of like I do at work with my career right now. Same type of thing when I look at my action plan and try to make sure that I'm setting myself up for, success. And sometimes, the day-to-day stuff can seem like you're constantly, not getting anywhere. But once you look back at it, you realize you've accomplished more than you ever thought by being disciplined in it.
Yeah. You were asking, can discipline be learned? Absolutely. And, you're going to discipline yourself or someone else will. And it starts early on. I think John Wooden said that to all his athletes, that famous NCAA basketball coach for UCLA, John Wooden. I don't know how many titles he won, but a ton. He told all his players, discipline yourself so no one else has to, because either way, it's going to happen. And if you're not disciplined enough to put your seatbelt on every time you get in your vehicle, eventually you'll get a ticket or 2 or 5, and maybe you'll learn the hard way. So to me, it boils down to small decisions every day that lead to the best decision, which will get you to your goal. And these small decisions seem very, I don't know, minor or not even important, but they are critical, where you can literally change the direction that your life is going by this small, like seemingly insignificant decision to brush your teeth every day, or to, make your food for the week, or to exercise 4 times a week. You know what I mean? Or to shoot your bow every day. You know what I mean? It's just these little decisions. 6 months go by, and if you hadn't made those decisions, you wouldn't be where you're at. And so I think discipline is something that either you're just not going to learn the easy way, you're going to learn the hard way, and that's fine. And that's, for some people, that's what it takes. But at the end of the day, no one can do it for you, but you got to do it. You got to do it for yourself. And you better have a game plan, and you better know your why, because your why will always basically be your compass day in and day out, as the decisions you need to make, those small ones that are so critical. And for me, like that's kind of what's led me to where I'm at. And I'm still figuring things out, bro. But I'm telling you, just discipline wins, and it's working towards the big goals. Yeah.
And it's funny when you said, start with why. There's a book I just read on that recently. I can't remember who wrote the book, but it's called Start with Why. And Simon Sinek, that's who it was. And Jordan Harbertson had referred it to me to read, and it was a great book to really everything I do, to how to prioritize it. I go back to my why and why I'm doing that, and that's how I can kind of prioritize, because you obviously can't do everything that you may want to, but by prioritizing those goals and executing them seem to be, at least put me on a better track. Let's put it that way.
Definitely. I think that's solid advice. And, the topic to me, I mean, I've talked about it a lot on a lot of my content, but it just doesn't get old to me. It just boils down to discipline. And that's the bottom line. And it's an absolute. So are you going to discipline yourself to get to your goals? How bad do you want it? And is it really that important to you? I don't know. So for you to get your first elk this year, there's a lot of small decisions that you need to make before you even step foot into the woods to put yourself in a position to accomplish that. So I'm excited to hear how your season goes, and if all this training and knowledge gathering pays off for itself. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking going in that it's 100% success rate. So that's how I'm going into it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't want to keep you much longer here. I've already taken a little over an hour of your time here, Dan. So one last question that I ask everyone on the podcast here before we end it. And my kind of slogan, everything with here, is, how do you define adventure? So that's the question that I'm going to ask you.
I don't think it's an adventure unless you're tested. And I don't know what that means exactly. Let's just use the term in a broad stroke. Tested in a way where it didn't come easy. That to me is adventure, where you think about it, it takes you to wild places and wild spaces, and there's no gimmies, and that's kind of why I'm an advocate for public land, over-the-counter elk hunting, blue-collar style. Just, I feel like there's no better reward than to finally put your hands on that bull that anyone else could have killed, and you did it yourself. To me, that's awesome, and there's a test along the way, and it's the test mentally, it's a test physically, emotionally, and it's a test of your discipline. And if you can pass that test, I mean, that's awesome. And if you don't, it's okay. It's still an adventure, as long as there was a test and you were challenged and you faced adversity and you grew. I don't know. I think that's an adventure to me. So adventure to me equals growth.
Awesome. I love it. That's perfect. So where can everyone find you and some of your stuff to help them? We touched, a brief layer of all these topics here, but your podcast and your website and everything really digs into this stuff even more. So where can people find that?
Yeah, and just elkshape.com. That website will lead you down the path of articles and workouts, and the podcast is on all the places you would find a podcast. And Instagram is Dan the Fitness Man is where I put most of my stuff. And I try to be extremely just transparent, authentic, and I am who I am. And if you want to follow along the journey, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Definitely, man. My pleasure, Bo. Good luck this year.
You too. See ya.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Bo Martonic. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.